Hi everybody, welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Graded stakes action, Breeders' Cup Challenge Series races from coast to coast. DRF handicapper Mike Beer and I have you covered with the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile and the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland and the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes for 2-year-olds going a one-turn mile at beautiful Belmont Park. We have not one, but two Timeform U.S. spotlights. We welcome back Chief Figure Maker Craig Milkowski, who's going to take a look at the Shadwell Turf Mile and how the pace specifically is going to play out. David Aragona's Timeform U.S. spotlight focuses on the Grade 1 Bell Dame at Belmont Park. JK's Play of the Day is a pick 3 at Keeneland. Nicole Russo is going to analyze the pedigrees of strong contenders in the 2-year-old race, the Grade 1 Champagne at Belmont. Plus best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break out of the gate. We begin out of the gate with our Horse Watch segment. Mike Beer, Naira analyst, I know a couple of weeks ago you gave out newspaper of record for Chad Brown, and that horse just simply looked sensational last week, winning the Miss Grillo. But I honestly think you're on Chad Brown's payroll, because each and every week your Horse Watch is from the Brown barn.
He's got a lot of good horses, Dan. It's hard to find a horse that runs well in New York and then it's not trained by Chad Brown. Here's another one, U.S. Navy Cross, 2-year-old, first-time starter. He's got a lot of good 2-year-olds right now, Chad does. Let's look at the replay of U.S. Navy Cross. Race. We're going to pick it up on the stretch already. Here he is coming off the inside. He got outrun early in this race. He made a big run around the turn just to catch up to this field, and then he keeps it going through the stretch. This was a really nice debut. Horse has a lot of pedigree. He's a half to 3 stakes winners. His dam is a sister to Soaring Softly, who was a good turf horse, Flower Bowl winner, Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf winner. So there's turf down the line if they want to go that route with this horse. But he ran well on dirt, made up a lot of ground in this race, kept going through the stretch. Nice debut.
I found a horse that's run well in New York that's not trained by Chad Brown, and that's the winner of last week's Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. That's Channel Maker for Bill Mott. He reminds me a little bit of Beach Patrol, who won the Joe Hirsch in 2017, and that as they've stretched him out in distance, he has found his speed and he has improved since he's been more forwardly placed. Let's go back to last week's Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. Channel Maker went right to the front in this race. It was a wet turf course, a very soft turf course, and perhaps the inside was the place to be. But that's a nice horse, Robert Bruce, the Arlington Million winner, making a run at Channel Maker in the stretch. Channel Maker, unlike his 2 races at Saratoga, way more professional, on his right lead from the moment he turned into the straight, and he kicks away. This horse has now earned triple-digit Beyer speed figures for Bill Mott in 5 out of his last 6 races, and I think he has just found himself as a forwardly placed horse at longer distances, 11, 12 furlongs. We'll see him in the Breeders' Cup Turf, and it's obviously going to be a big ask, taking on not only the best domestic horses on the turf, but also the Europeans. But this horse has found himself. I think he's going to be close to the pace. I think he's going to give a good account of himself in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Let's get to some handicapping. The DRF race of the day for Saturday is the Grade 1 $1 million Shadwell Turf Mile. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's DRF race of the day, the Grade 1 $1 million Shadwell Turf Mile, carded as race number 10 at Keeneland. For free formulator past performances for this race, head on over to the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. And for expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover every horse in every race, and I want to remind everybody our colleague Matt Bernier is going to be down at Keeneland for NBC giving his selections on Saturday afternoon. Craig Milkowski is going to talk about the pace of the Shadwell Turf Mile in his segment coming up, Mike. But let's talk about Heart to Heart. He's just such a game and gritty horse, and you know he's fast.
Yeah, he's just a really good horse. You know, he's been a really good horse for a long time, and he's finally become a Grade 1 winner this year, winning 2 of them. And then he came right back in the Shoemaker Mile. Let's look at his Shoemaker Mile, 2 starts back. He's going for his 3rd Grade 1 win in a row, and he takes over the lead at the top of the stretch. He was very comfortable without making the lead early in this race. He takes it over the top of the stretch. Right here, Dan, Dan Hunt's coming for him. Looks like right there he might have been able to turn this horse away, and they're going to duel down to the finish, and no, he cannot hold on at the end. He settles for second best. I thought he ran well in this race. I'm assuming he runs well again on Saturday because that's generally what he does, but if he doesn't make the lead, he has a hard time winning races.
And Craig will have a lot more about it in his segment, but it's going to be hard to imagine him making the lead with the quick voodoo song in this race for Linda Rice and Bound for Nowhere, who has to hustle from a far outside post. Whether he makes the lead or not, the pace has to be fast, and we're going to be looking for horses to come from off it. And being on Chad Brown's payroll, you of course took one of his too.
Can't believe you're taking me down like that twice already in both segments. This time Almanar is my pick in this race, though. Chad, listen, he's very well represented in all of these turf graded stakes races. He's got a couple of real live horses in here too, and I prefer Almanar in this race. This horse has been good from day one for Chad. He got himself injured after winning a grade 1 race early last year. He missed a ton of time. Let's show a replay of his first start back, an allowance race on Belmont Stakes weekend. They just took him back off the pace. You can see him switching to the outside right now. He only wins by a neck in this race, Dan. He won this race a lot easier than the margin suggests. You can just see Joel Rosario just letting him do it on his own here. A very convincing win. I really like this comeback for him. He exited this race. I thought he ran great in the Arlington Million last time. I think it just might be a little bit too far for him. I love him cutting back in this race.
He's going to cut back to the mile. He's going to get a lot of pace. It looks like this horse, who missed so much time due to injury, is finally getting back to his best in any kind of multiple race wager. I use Almanar. I'd also use the other Chad Turnback, Analyzer, who I think was going too far in a couple of his other races, but I want a big bomb in here, one that likes the Keeneland turf course, and that's the number 13 Big Score, who's only run twice this year. And I wonder if his trainer, Tim Yachteen's been pointing for this race all along, because he won the Transylvania at Keeneland in 2017 over good ground. We're expecting a little wet weather at Keeneland this weekend. This horse can kick. Let's go back to his most recent race, the Del Mar Mile Handicap, only his second start of the year. Look how far outside he is in the stretch. He was wide all through the turn into the stretch. He's going to make up some ground. This race has come back okay. Another also ran, the 7th place horse, a horse that Big Score finished well ahead of. That horse came back to earn a 102 Beyer speed figure in his next start. Big Score fired in that race. He fired in the Wicker, his first start off a very long layoff, and I think he's sitting on go. Is he good enough to take down this grade 1 caliber field? We'll find out, but he's going to be the right price. He's going to be getting a great pace situation up front, and he likes Keeneland. I'll take a shot with Big Score in the Shadwell Turf Mile. Craig Milkowski is going to take a look at the pace projector using Timeform USPPs in the Shadwell Turf Mile, and then Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on some real nice bloodlines in this year's Champagne. Then we'll take a break and come right back. We got lots of handicapping.
Hi, I'm Craig Milkowski of Timeform US for this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Today we're going to look at the Shadwell Turf Mile at Keeneland, which is race 10 on Saturday, from a Timeform US perspective. And I picked this race due to the projected fast pace that the pace projector shows. I want to start out there's a quick look at the pace projector, and you'll see two of the horses aren't listed. They're deep closers who we are going to talk to, given that the pace is projected to be fast. And there's two other horses not listed as well, the 15 and 16, because we don't show also eligibles on the pace projector. But if they do happen to draw into the field, this will adjust on the fly. It does adjust for scratches, so you can keep in mind those things will be accounted for. It's kind of a live tool that changes as the race changes. The first horse we're going to look at is number 10, Voodoo Song. He's a very interesting horse in here. He was the king of Saratoga last year, winning 4 races at the meet. He did win again there this year to make it 5 in a row before dropping his last start in the Grade 2 Bernard Baruch, where he set, as usual, a fast pace, and that's what I have highlighted here. This horse is just always part of a fast pace. He's usually on the lead, and he doesn't do it by stealing, setting slow pace. He sets quick fractions, and he's going to be very tough. He almost assures a fast pace no matter who else is in the field. But seeing how we have some other speed that we're going to look at here in a second, I would say a fast pace is as close to a likelihood as you'll ever find in this race. The next horse we have is number 14, Bound for Nowhere, who obviously draws far outside. His last 2 races are a little tough to rate. For one, the last race was at Kentucky Downs, where they are still hand timing the fractions. And as hard as they try to make it right, they're just not very reliable at this point. So we choose not to make pace figures for those races. So that one's kind of ignored as far as the pace projector goes. His previous race was at Ascot, where once again, they don't have fractions. We don't make figures for those. But you can read the comment where he was the leader in the field early before backing up a little bit at the end. Actually ran a very good race to be beaten less than a length in a Group 1 over there at the Royal Ascot meeting. The reason he's shown so far up in the pace projector goes back to the 2 races before that, where he was showing speed sprinting both on turf and on the synthetic course. And generally horses, when they stretch out from sprints going long, they're going to, be positioned more forward, run a little bit faster pace figure wise. And that's why you see Bound for Nowhere. He certainly has good tactical speed. He did rate nicely last time, so I don't think he's a need the lead type, but he should definitely be part of the pace. Now, the horse that drew me to this race is Heart to Heart. He's 7-2 on the morning line, which I believe in this big field is actually the morning line favorite. And there's some interesting notes with Heart to Heart. If you don't think he's going to make the lead, which I don't, and the pace projector does not, I think he's a very good bet against in this field. In his career, he's made the lead 22 times, and he's won 15 of those races. In fact, all 15 of his career wins have come going wire to wire, where he's led at every call. But that also leaves 15 times where he has not made the lead. And in those 15 races, he's been beaten every time. Some he's run better than others. He's had some close seconds, but he's yet to find a winner's circle where he's not able to set that early lead. So that brings us to the horse I'm liking in this race, and that's number 6, Synchrony. The reason I like him, for one, because of the fast pace, but there's some other stuff as well. I think he's shown he's a closer. He's really come into his own this year as a 5-year-old. And those last 2 races really stick out to me. Where the pace has been pretty slow, you can see the fractions are noted in blue in his last 2 race pass performances. And he's still gotten up the win despite that. He's come from 5.5, 6.5 lengths back to win. And he's won rather easily. Now, granted, it was against slightly lesser competition. But given his 8-1 morning line, I think he rates a really strong chance in here, and he should be an overlay if he's anywhere near that morning line. The last thing I want to show is just our top late speed horses in this field. I listed the top 5 in order, and Synchrony tops it. But there are a few others that, maybe at a price, if you're playing some exotics, you might want to throw in there. I won't pretend how to pronounce number 7's name, so I'll just call him the 7. He's tied with the late pace. He won his, as the top late pace horse, he won his lone start in the U.S. after coming over from France, and he certainly could win here. It wouldn't be a big shock. And then you see some other prices in Next Shares, Almanar, and Divisadero. So I will definitely be leaning at the late runners in this race. I like Synchrony on top, but I won't be afraid to use some of these others either. That's it for this week's Timeform US segment. Let's send it to Nicole Russo.
Hey everyone, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's Grade 1 Champagne Stakes at Belmont Park. The field is led by Saratoga Special winner Call Paul. But we've got 3 really well-bred maiden winners stepping up to this level who are intriguing here, some different storylines here. We'll begin with a look at the Godolphin Homebred Endorsed, a Saratoga maiden winner. As you would expect when you see those Godolphin colors, a really regally bred horse. His sire, Medaglia d'Oro, in the midst of a career run, both on the racetrack and in the commercial arena. He needs no introduction. And Endorsed is out of the Tappet mare, Dance Card, who, yes, was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, but who was a Grade 1 winner going longer in the Gazelle. Certainly bodes well for Endorsed as he stretches out from 6 furlongs to the mile of the Champagne. Some juvenile ability in the family, too, to bode well for him, as Dance Card's first foal, a full brother to Endorsed, was a stakes place juvenile. Moving on to take a look at Aurelius Maximus, an impressive maiden winner and a mile last out. This colt is by Pioneer of the Nile, and I've noted throughout the season that this should be a strong crop for him. His current juvenile is conceived in the spring of 2015, when he's got a nice boost with Classic Place Social Inclusion in his first crop, and 2014 juvenile champion American Pharaoh in his second. Among the nice mares in his book was this Colts dam, multiple graded stakes winner La Reina, who earned some of those multiple graded wins as a juvenile. She's already the dam of Grade 2 winner Chief Havoc and Grade 3 place special events, both at longer distances. Now, her dam is Champion Queena, and this is a very classy family. The immediate family of grade or Group 1 winners Brahms, Sarah Lake, Somali Lemonade, Verrazano, and many other stakes horses. And lastly, a quick look at Trophy Chaser, who earned this year's second highest buyer so far for a 2-year-old, with a 96 in his romping maiden win at Gulfstream Park. The top figure game winner is 97 from the Grade 1 American Pharoah last weekend. Trophy Chaser is by Twirling Candy, a solid young stallion, and his dam's produce record, nothing special so far, but one more generation back, this is a family that has a lot of proven juvenile success that I take note of in a spot like this. It's the immediate family of European champion juvenile Air Force Blue and Eclipse Award champion filly Flanders, who of course herself produced a Grade 1 winning 2-year-old and later on an Eclipse champion in Surfside. The Champagne just one of 4 Grade 1 events for 2-year-olds this weekend around the country. I'll recap some of the pedigree angles out of those next week on the DRF Breeding Report. For now, stay tuned for more analysis of all of this weekend's action on Out of the Gate.
DRF Sports Forum Digital Edition, your ultimate weekly betting guide. Published by Daily Racing Form, DRF Sports Forum delivers all of the analysis and insight you need for every NFL game and more than 40 college football matchups. Beat the spread with powerful trends and sharp angles. Tap into best bets, expert picks, parlay winners, and more. All for just $4.99 per issue. Get this week's edition free. Visit drf.com/sportsforum. Enter code DRFSports.
Are you a horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures, Timeform US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. drf.com. Raise your game.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 1 $500,000 Champagne Stakes for 2-year-olds going a 1-turn mile at Belmont Park, an important prep race for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded races this weekend, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. A real strong field, Mike. Chad Brown, he's got the morning line favored in complexity, and this horse was very brilliant on his debut at Saratoga. Let's take a look at that race. 90 buyer speed figure, and he didn't break to boot?
Yeah, he ran really well in this race. I mean, he broke from the rail, as you mentioned. He didn't come flying out of the gate, but he had the speed. Once he got himself straightened away, he had the speed to come right up the inside and take this race over, and it was really never in doubt. The word was out on this horse. Everybody knew he could run. They bet him that way, and he did not disappoint.
And he is by McLean's Music. Chad knows a thing or two about training of McLean's Music. He's got a Preakness winner by McLean's Music, but this horse does have to stretch out from 6 furlongs to a mile. The pace scenario might be a little bit stronger than what it was in the maiden race, and he's going to have to break. Now, maybe it was just the inside post in that debut, but he kind of broke in towards the rail. And in a race like this, you can't afford to miss the break and get dirt kicked in your face for the first time. You're not going with that, Chad, but what a surprise. You're going with the other one, a horse that I know wants the distance.
Yeah, Aurelius Maximus is the other Chad horse. He's going to be a much better price than Complexity is, and we'll just see if he's good enough. This is a really good field in the Champagne. What this horse has going for him is he's already run twice. He's already won around a 1-turn mile. He's never been on a fast track before, but I suspect that that's not going to be a problem for him. Let's look at his maiden win, because he debuted at Saratoga sprinting. He did not look like a sprinter. He actually ran really well first time out. Just a race that's a little too short for him. They stretched him out in this race. I mean, you just can't win any easier than this. He breezed up alongside the pace setter in here, took over when he was ready, ridden out to the finish. He's facing some good horses in this race, Dan, but I like some of the advantages he has. I like that he's going to be a price in this race, and I'm not so sure that this horse isn't pretty good in his own right.
I have a feeling Chad thinks he's pretty good because you can tell he's just learning with each and every start. Maybe the light bulb hasn't turned on just yet, but the talent is apparent, and this horse is really bred to run all day long. A half to Valadorna, a graded stakes winner on the dirt that's running in the First Lady Stakes on the turf on Saturday at Keeneland. I've got a well-bred horse in my own right, and that's the #1 Endorsed. This is a Godolphin homebred by Medaglia d'Oro. The Damn Dance card was a Grade 1 stakes winner at 9 furlongs, but was also talented enough to finish third in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Endorsed has only raced once as well, at Saratoga, and let's take a look at that race right now. This horse was down inside turning into the stretch, and Joe Bravo probably could have come up the rail. Instead, he decides to come outside of the well-bet first-time-out favorite Ahead of Plan, trained by Chad Brown, and I just like the way Endorsed kicks into gear once he's clear in this final 16th of a mile. This horse earns a respectable 89 Beyer speed figure and winning the faster division of 2 maiden special weights for 2-year-olds at Saratoga at 6 furlongs, and the way he finished, coupled with his pedigree, makes me think that a mile is within his scope. He breaks from an inside post, which would normally be worrisome for me, but the fact that he did take dirt, the fact that he was inside for most of the way, that allays my fears somewhat. I'm going with the well-bred Endorsed in the Champagne, and I'll use him over a horse that I used as a horse watch here on this show a couple of weeks ago, the #2 Trophy Chaser. We're going to stay with the 2-year-olds, but we'll move from New York to Keeneland. The Claiborne Breeders' Futurity is up next. Here's the field for the Grade 1 $500,000 Claiborne Breeders' Futurity, carded as race #9 at Keeneland on Saturday. We're going a 2-turn mile and a 16th, which makes this a very important prep for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile 2 turns at Churchill Downs this year. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races this weekend, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover every horse in every graded stakes race in great depth. We also have lots more programming as well. Mike, perhaps the key prep for the Breeders' Futurity, the prestigious Grade 1 hopeful closing weekend at Saratoga. Mind Control won that race, but we also have several others. We're going to take a look at the race right now. Todd Pletcher's Sombaye is going to stretch out. Mind Control is going to stretch out. But you're a little bit interested in Dream Maker, who really didn't fire in this race, but was coming off a layoff.
Yeah, this is only his second career start, but it's 3 months since his debut. He didn't get a race in after winning first time out. I just felt like this was the kind of race. Well, 2 things about this race. First of all, the pace just wasn't fast. It wasn't competitive. They weren't doing a lot of racing in front of this horse. They sort of took him back, held him up behind horses early. You can see he's just covered in mud here as he comes through the stretch. But he's racing on at the end. I really feel like he might have needed this race. And at the end of the day, Dan, I just trust him more stretching out than I trust the other 2 horses stretching out from this race. I feel like this race didn't work out well for him. I think he's going to run better on Saturday.
So Dream Maker is going to be your top selection. There was some buzz about this horse after he won his career debut, and he was scheduled to run in the Sanford opening weekend, and I believe that Cassie decided to wait for this race. It didn't exactly work out. He's your top pick.
Yeah, I really feel like he's going to improve stretching out and distance here. I mean, this is a wide open kind of race. I feel like a lot of horses can win here, but I do expect him to run better. At the end of the day, Mind Control, I certainly think he's a good horse. I think he can win this race, but I don't know if I want a short price on him stretching out. He had too many things go right for him in the hopeful.
You do have a point. I'm interested in your thoughts on Sombaye. Trained by Todd Pletcher, you always got to respect his 2-year-olds, but stretching out, there's a lot of speed on the bottom of this pedigree, and looking at his overall form, it's not like he's improving by leaps and bounds from each and every start. I wonder if he's already plateaued.
Yeah, I worry about that too. He's already run 4 times, and he's certainly a good horse. He's run well basically in all 4 of his races. He's a real game horse. You could see him really trying at the end of that hopeful. Again, a race that didn't set up great for him. I just wonder how much better he gets going longer.
You kind of don't like Mind Control in here, and I understand everything you said. The pace didn't materialize in the hopeful because Derby Date, the speedy maiden, stumbled at the start, and that allowed Mind Control to control things up front. Well, that's not going to happen breaking from post 13, but I wonder if Mind Control can sit. It's too early to say he can't sit from off the pace and past horses. I like the way he dug in to hold off Mucho, the favorite trade by Bill Mott, Nitrous, a horse that was impressive, winning first time out for Steve Asmussen, and the only horse that really handled this horse so far, Call Paul, he's going to be one of the choices in the Champagne. I want Mind Control to see if he can rate and finish. He's 7-2 on the morning line. I think he's going to drift a little bit. Whether it's enough to provide value, we'll find out, but he'll be my tepid top top pick in a very contentious edition of the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. JK's play of the day, a Keeneland pick 3. David Aragona's Timeform US Spotlight focuses on the Grade 1 Belle Dame at Belmont on Saturday. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's play of the day. Beautiful bluegrass state, Lexington, Kentucky. Keeneland gets started this weekend. We're going to start with a pick 3 in race 8, the Grade 1 First Lady. Chad Brown's got 3 in here. I think all 3 of them are live. Obviously, a Raving Beauty and Cadera offer the most likely of the 3 winners. But I also think that Off Limits is one that you want to include as well. Getting Julian Leperoux for the first time, usually Joelle Rosario. She's drawn outside. I'd imagine she'll take back, tuck in, make one run. Cadera should be forwardly placed, and Raving Beauty should be in the middle. And regardless of the pace scenario, one of those 3 seems extremely likely to get home. And so I'm going to just use those 3 Chads in this spot and try to advance to the Futurity, where I actually think you can get a price. Race 9, I'm going to use the 5 Dreammaker for Mark Casse. Thought the horse ran well last time at Saratoga. It definitely ran better than it looks on paper. I think that horse could excel. These horses, most of them are going to be stretching out, going 2 turns for the first time. I think Dreammaker's live. I'm going to use the 8 Tobacco Road for Steve Asmussen. Kind of had a little bit of a trip last time at Churchill. Expect that one that could improve with a little bit of a price. The same with the 9 Moonster. I'm going to use that horse for Dale Romans. Probably wasn't the most ideal place on the racetrack to be last time. I think that horse could move up a little bit. The 10 Mr. Ankeny ran at Ellis Park, and remember last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, that not this time, a Dale Romans horse was debuted at Ellis Park. I don't think that says anything about the talent. I think he kind of splits them up, some at Ellis, some at Saratoga. I think this one's talented with a big figure last time. And then I'm going to use the 13 Mind Control. The stakes winner ran well in the Hopeful on the front end for Johnny Velasquez down on the inside. Drawn outside, a little bit of a problem, but I think that horse will be forward and end up getting a good trip in the 2 or the 3 path. I'm going to spread there, hope that I can get a little bit of a price. Obviously, if Mind Control wins, I'll be there. He should probably go off favored. On to the Shadwell Toph Mile. Really fun race. The good old friend, Devisidero, shows up here. He actually ran pretty good, I thought, at Woodbine, trying to chase in Oscar Performance. He should save ground on the inside and has enough speed in here with the likes of Heart to Heart, Voodoo Song, and Analyze It showing up. I'm going to use Heart to Heart, who, depending on how fast they go, should have a really good shot in here. They go slow, he can win. They go fast, he can still win. He's shown that in the past. I think he might be ridden a little bit differently than he was in the 4-star Dave. Synchrony is one you want to use. The Michael Stidham horse always seems to show up. Has won both of his last 2 races. I think he's extremely tough in this spot. This will be his first time racing at Keeneland. Keeneland's turf course is a little bit tricky, so we'll have to see. There could be a surprise there, whether or not he likes that surface or not. Analyze It, the Chad Brown horse, the 3-year-old who's cutting back, running in the mile. I'm excited about seeing him here. I wish there was a little bit less speed. I've been looking forward to him running in a mile, going to the front end. Heart to Heart can rate sometimes. Voodoo Song, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Analyze It could still find the front end, or the shorter distance might just be his friend, and he should be able to find a way to finish a little bit. And then Almanar, the other Chad Brown horse, if Analyze It cooks on the front end, I think Almanar could pick up horses late. Very tough sequence. The pick 4 was too hard for me to navigate. Good luck. We'll see you next week.
Hi, everyone. This is David Aragona with this week's Timeform US Spotlight. It's another big card of racing on Saturday at Belmont Park. 4 graded stakes races. We're going to take a look at the 8th race. It's the Grade 1 Beldame, one of 2 Grade 1 races on the card. Now, when you look at the field for this Beldame, it's really not a Grade 1 caliber field, let's be honest. A lot of the top players in this division just are not participating in this race. But the fact that the Elates and the Abel Tasmans of the world are not running kind of makes it a more wide open race. And I think it's a race where we can look for some better prices, because I don't really trust the horses that are going to be among the favorites in this spot. Let's start out by taking a look at the pace projector. There are 3 key speeds in this race, and the one that's projected to be on the lead is the number 3 horse, Divine Miss Gray. She's an incredibly versatile mare filly for Danny Gargan. She goes short, she goes long, she really does it all, and she just typically shows up with a solid effort. She seems like she's faster than a horse like Come Dancing, who, albeit has been proficient at sprint distances as well, and the horse on the outside, the number 8 Farrell, who also also is a need the lead type. But given the fact that Divine Miss Gray is drawn inside of those fillies, I think they're going to have to use her speed from that inside post position. And Divine Miss Gray, she is among the two horses that is likely to take the bulk of the play in this race. And we'll take a look at her recent past performances, and you see that she's run some pretty fast races. If she runs that race 3 back at Monmouth in the Lady's Secret, where she earned a 1:23 Timeform US speed figure, she's going to be awfully tough to beat in this race. You see she disappointed next time out in the Molly picture, but I think she had an excuse that day. You see the light blue color-coded race rating on the left-hand side of the screen of that July 29th race. That indicates that the Monmouth Park track was favoring closers that day, and really the rail was dead on that occasion, and Divine Miss Gray was right down inside for most of that race, and I think she just really didn't get the best trip, and that really hindered her performance. She bounced back last time against the pretty bad off the turf field at Parks and an uncompetitive race, but she did what she had to do and she won. She's in good form right now. The distance is a concern. I think a 1 1/8 is really pushing it for her. She's proficient going from about 6.5 furlongs all the way out to 1 16. I think a 1 1/8 is really a little past her limit, but she's competitive in this race and I'm going to use her. I just prefer others. The horse that might go favorite in this race is the number 6 horse, Wildcat. Now, Wildcat's been a bit of a disappointment since arriving in this country. Chad Brown gave some pre-race quotes prior to the Chuvy saying that she might be one of his better fillies in the dirt fillies that he has in recent years, and it just hasn't really turned out to be the case. She disappointed at 4-5 behind Farrell in that Chuvy, and then she came back, and she actually took some money in that Grade 1 personal ensign behind Abel Tasman in a late, going off at 4-1. And again, she just was not competitive with the top fillies in the country. Now she's getting some significant class relief. There are no heavy hitters in this race, but she's going to be a short price off those performances. And I just feel like she hasn't run all that well, not significantly better than rivals like Farrell and Verve's Tail. And I just don't want her at a short price. She can win this race, but she offers no value in my opinion. I'm actually pretty interested in Verve's Tail, who finished right behind Wildcat in the Chuvy 2-back. And this is actually the last race for Verve's Tail. She ran well that day. You know, the pace really held together. They didn't go that fast up front. And Verve's Tail was really the only horse to make a significant run from the back of the pack. I think she's in good form. The 1 1/8 really suits Verve's Tail. She's done it at Belmont Park before, and I just think she's a logical contender in this race, and she's not going to be among the favorites. So I'm definitely using her. But if I'm looking at the closers in this race, because I do think there is going to be a legitimate pace with the speeds like Divine Miss Gray, Come Dancing, and Farrell all needing to show speed in this race, I'm most interested in the number 1 horse, Dream Call. She's going to be a price in this race. I've got her as the longest shot on the morning line. And Dream Call, she's a little bit slower than her main rivals, I'll give you that. But I think she didn't really have her best chance last time in the Royal Delta, and she's going to really get ignored off that performance where she just was really nowhere behind Come Dancing. But that was a sloppy track. Dream Call had never been on a wet track before, and she just didn't seem to handle it whatsoever. Going back to her prior races in the Molly Pitcher and the Iowa Distaff, I actually think she ran pretty well because in that race where Byrne won, Byrne kind of made the first move in that Molly Pitcher, and Dream Call was really running at the end. She's a horse that didn't really seem to take the turns too well at Monmouth, and she really got running once they got into the stretch. We also saw that 3-back at Prairie Meadows. I think that it's really going to like Belmont Park. I know it didn't play out that way last time, but I think that was due to the wet track that speed was really holding over the surface on September 9th. I think Dream Call is up to the stepping up in company in this race because it's really not a true Grade 1. And I just think she's moving in the right direction. She's going to be a price. I'm taking a shot in a pretty wide open Beldame. So for me, it's Dream Call over horses like Wildcat, Verve's Tail, and Divine Miss Gray.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Mike Beard-Naira, analyst, your best bet at beautiful Belmont Park, not a Chad Brown trained runner.
Race number 11. Chad doesn't have one. He doesn't have these New York bred entry-level allowance horses. This isn't a stakes race. I like this horse in the last race. So we'll see what happens with Cirque. She's number 12 in this race, making her second start of the year here as a 4-year-old for low-profile trainer Bob Dunham. But she ran pretty well in all of her turf races last year as a 3-year-old, including this maiden when end of the year down at Aqueduct. She made the front in this race, and she's just going to dig in gamely through the stretch here and hold on at the end. 75 buyer speed figure, though, for this win. A nice effort for this filly. Very lightly raced. She came off the layoff last time. Did not get the right trip or right. They didn't use her speed. She got all jammed up in behind the leaders in the race and had to steady out of the race on the turn, and it was over for her from there. Second off the layoff now. Second time Lasix in a race without a ton of speed, and she's drawn outside and 15-1 on the morning line. I'm going to take a chance with this horse.
My selection in here, not only my best bet, but also a public service announcement. don't text and drive. Let's take a look at this horse's most recent win at Thistledown on September the 1st. It was his second start of the year. He's only run 3 lifetime starts, and he just went to the front and blitzed this field of Ohio-bred non-winners of 2 Life. It was the faster division by more than 1 second, and he defeated 2 next-out winners in this spot. He came out of this race with a bullet half mile in 48 seconds flat. He has won from on the lead and from off the pace. He is 7-2 on the morning line, and he is facing an older coupled entry that's probably going to take at least a little bit of money. Don't text and drive, either from on the lead or just off the pace in race number 3 at Thistledown. Don't text and drive is the number 2. We thank you for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow all of DRF TV's latest offerings on social media. Follow on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form, follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.